Gnome. Lots of Gnome. Not the garden variety. The desktop variety is getting more exciting. I remember, especially with Gnome 40, and prior to that, the conversion to Gnome 3. Right? I mean, it's been a long list of things where the GNOME devs in general were trying to get rid of all the cruft, the stuff that didn't work or kind of worked.
Angered a lot of people. They came out with their pitchforks.
Yeah, but the pitchforks is right.
Yeah, the removal of anything was not welcome. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and as long as you don't verify GNOME versioning, it took 43 versions to finally add the functionality of toggling outputs and inputs from the system menu. Okay, it's only been 3 versions, but because they started counting different at GNOME 40. But anyway, so now we're at whole numbers, 3 versions. We now get something that I've been using on Linux Mint in Cinnamon for the longest time. You right-click on the little sound icon in the wherever it is in your tray in Cinnamon, and for outputs, you just get a list. Like you can drop it down, choose your output if you have multiple, and same with inputs. As long as it's being used, like Audacity is on, inputs will show up, and you can toggle those inputs easily. GNOME is finally getting that feature, and I absolutely love it. We do a lot of recording, Dan. We do a lot of audio stuff.
Well, I mean, we've got different inputs all over the place, right? I mean, we got a camera that's got a webcam, it's got a mic in it, and then we got a mic here, and then you might have another, sound card that's got a mic input, and even if you're not using it, it shows up as an input.
My camera just shows up all the time and decides to take priority all the time. So yes, this is huge.
Yeah, and it's like Pulse Audio loves to grab the last thing that got connected. And so if your webcam is the last thing that it, in the boot up process that got connected, well, that's the default mic now. And
that's exactly what happens.
Some webcams even want to be the output, which no thank you, because I'm not listening to anything there.
No. I'm so glad my camera doesn't have any kind of output or even like a dummy output to take precedence, because that would be very annoying.
Well, and like some microphones do, right? Because they'll have, a monitor port, but they can also output audio from the system.
Yep.
Like everybody wants to be able to select the correct place for, your audio to go in or out. And having it right there in the menu, in the system tray, that's so much better. I mean,
that's where the sound goes.
We were talking about this in the pre-show.
Yeah.
That I think GNOME is the only desktop environment that didn't have this.
Right.
Maybe?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure, maybe with the exception of 1 or 2. Pretty much every desktop environment has something like this, and this is why it was so frustrating that GNOME didn't have it.
Right.
But in 43, which is in beta as we record this, it does have it. So I'm super excited
I think this is
about
great.
this.
Welcome improvement.
Yeah, this is one that really affects me. So so when you have multiple outputs, there's an arrow to the right of the volume slider. So you click up in the top right, GNOME brings down that little menu, and to the right of the slider, there's a little what is that? Greater than symbol, essentially.
Yep.
And when you click it, all the outputs pop down, and you just put the check mark next to the one that you actually want to use. And as I mentioned with Cinnamon, the inputs have to be in use. So you have to have a application running that would use your microphone before you can go, if you have multiples of those. Most people just have one. I think Dan and I have
got
3.
Like 4 right now. I don't know. I lost track.
We've got a lot. Yeah, so very welcome change. And like there's a whole lot more stuff. Like I'm really harping on the audio thing because it affects me a lot, but there's a whole lot of other stuff. The file manager better spacing. So when you select multiple things or you're just trying to kind of parse through a bunch of different files, there's a little bit of better spacing. The sidebar, you know, where home and favorites and all that stuff goes, when you make the window real small, that goes away. It doesn't go away fully. It just gets tucked away, and there's a little button to bring it back. That is pretty fantastic.
That's pretty slick.
Yeah, it really is. And drawing a box around multiple files to select them. This was not in every version of GNOME 40, which was, I couldn't understand it.
Yeah, no, that seems like a very basic thing.
Right, and it's called rubber banding. Though I come from like a lot of gaming where rubber banding is about lag and latency, and,
right.
You know, the catching up to the server and stuff. So that was a weird term for me to read, but it's like wrapping a rubber band around multiple items is, I guess, what it really refers to. But now you can do that super easily in Nautilus. Formatting a drive was taken away from the context menus a while back. That's back. I know.
I mean, I guess probably everybody used GNOME disks.
That's been my default for quite a long time, just because that thing is so functional.
Right.
I mean, it can do everything. It can write your image disk to Raspberry Pi
it can
SD
restore
cards.
Stuff. Even
Yes, yep, exactly. Yeah, if you like blow away a disk on accident, and you have an image backup or something, it'll just plop it right back on there. You can do format of multiple different disk types, disk formats, all that, all kind of disk benchmarking. You don't even need like Crystal Disk like you do on Windows.
It does Crystal Disk stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Having that right in the context menu, I guess that speeds things up for people, especially if you're formatting a removable disk, like a USB disk or something.
Yeah,
you just want to format that real quick.
Yeah, I do it all the time with flash drives, but I don't do it with any other disks. So hopefully that's confined to removable media, because accidentally doing that to something else is probably bad. But I think Windows has that in a lot of their context menus too. So
I think they do.
Yeah, I don't hear a lot of complaints. So I'm sure it'll be fine. Another cool change, because there are a couple of app images that I use on a regular basis. So usually when you get an app image, you have to if you're doing it as in the GUI, right click on the app image, hit properties, go to the permissions tab, check the box down at the bottom that says let this run, and then hit OK.
Right.
Now, GNOME takes a couple of steps out of this process. Right click properties, the toggle is there at the bottom. So that takes off, what is that? Yeah, it removes a
couple of steps. Yeah, well, at least one.
But it also puts that option at the forefront.
Right.
So, I mean, especially for things like app image, it's a lot easier to find. Because if you don't know where to look, you're already kind of up a creek. And then in most sets of instructions, they try to write it from the terminal standpoint, because no two GUIs are exactly the same, right?
Right.
So, no one's trying to...
a great experience, though, right?
Yeah, no one's trying to chmod U plus X over here. So, this makes that simplified, and simplification, at least in this case, very welcome, very nice.
I think so.
Something that I've been doing a lot in Cinnamon is, you navigate to a directory in the file system, and you're like, you know what, this would be way easier to do in the terminal. So instead of just clicking the terminal button, you can right click in that file navigator thing and hit open in terminal, or in GNOME's case, it's open in console.
Yeah, the new terminal application.
Yes, I'm excited about this. It's just a feature that I've been missing. I didn't need it. It's fine. I can always open up a terminal and CD to where I need to go, but
I think the shortcut key still works too, right? F4 or something like that.
Right. But my hand's already on the mouse. I could just right click, left click, and it would be super simple, right? Just for the same reason that HJKL in Vim are bound to the movement keys. I already have my hand on the mouse. Let's speed this up a little bit.
It's a GUI application. Why wouldn't you have your hand on the mouse, right?
Very much. Exactly. And last thing I think about GNOME, I say that. It's not the last thing. There are a ton of changes in here. But the last thing that I think that most people are going to notice right off the bat is if you spend any amount of time looking in the about dialogues of boxes to either find out the version number or know who to send money to because those guys deserve a couple of
They do.
dollars, whatever the reason you're going into the about dialog box, it's now prettier. It's formatted
Nice.
better. You can see the important folks that do the important work for that app right there front and center.